Good morning, friends. Now we'll start the syllabus of semester 2 and paper number 3, that is electrostatics. And in this paper, there are two chapters. First one is mathematical physics, and second is electrostatics. I will teach this chapter, electrostatics. Friends, you have already discussed basic things about the chapter electrostatics in 12th standard. We have to revise some of the articles those you have studied last year, and we have to study some new syllabus of this chapter electrostatics, which is a very important one. First and foremost thing that I would like to tell to my student friends is that uh, the chapter is conceptual. We have to assume so many things in the chapter. So you have to pay your attention while studying this chapter. So first of all, we'll define the Coulomb's law that we have studied in 11th standard. We know that the Coulomb's law gives the force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges which are separated by a finite distance. So here we have considered the two charges. This is a charge Q1 and this is charge Q2, which are separated by a finite distance r. Then according to Coulomb's law, the force of attraction or repulsion between these two charges is directly proportional to product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. And taking the constant of proportionality k, we can write the force equation as F is equal to k into q1 q2 divided by r square. The constant of proportionality k has a value which has been universally accepted. It is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, and epsilon 0 is the permittivity of the free space. Means these two charges are placed in air, that is the medium between these two charges is air. So that 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 is the constant of proportionality, where epsilon 0 has value 8.854 into 10 raised to minus 12 SI units, or the value of K is given as 9 into 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. So here I have represented this as F21. That means here the force exerted by charge 2 on charge 1 is given by this equation. F21 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q1 Q2 divided by R square. On the other hand, you can write the force exerted by charge Q1 onto charge Q2 as F12, but that is opposite to the force in first case. So you can write this as F21 is equal to minus F12. So this is the basic law that we have discussed in 11th standard, and this is the basic law while to be used while studying this chapter electrostatics. Now we will discuss some definitions. First of all, we have to define the definition of the electric field. So we know that if you consider this is a charge Q, then obviously this charge has electric field. So there is a certain region within which you can experience this electrostatic force of attraction. That specific region is called as the electrostatic field. But we can define this in a more simplified way. For that, let us consider a charge Q, which is placed in the vacuum, and suppose that charge is placed at this point O. Suppose at this point O, that charge is placed. Now, if you consider any test charge, suppose this is the Q0 is any test charge. Obviously, the test charge should be very small as compared to this charge Q. Then the force experienced by the test charge due to this electric field of the charge Q is it will be given as I think it is given as F is equal to this K into this Q into this Q0 divided by R square as per the definition of the Coulomb's law. So this is the square. So the electric field is defined as, if you look at this here, the force acting per unit test charge is called as the electric field at this point. Means the electric field E at this point test charge is given as force per unit test charge. So it will be given as F divided by Q0. This is the basic definition, and hence its unit is force is measured in the units of Newton and test charge is measured in the units of Coulomb. So the unit of the electric field is Newton per Coulomb. Remember that the electric field is a vector quantity and the direction of electric field is in the direction of the force. So here in this case the electric field will be directed in this direction because the force direction is in this direction. So the direction of the electric field and force will be same. So if you consider the test charge as if you consider a charge as a minus Q, then the direction of the electric field will be the inward direction. So it must be assumed that a charge should be as small as possible, that I have already explained. So you can see if this is a charge Q, the electric field will be represented by this vector lines in outward direction. So just I have told you that the force will be given by like this, and since the test charge should be very small, in the limiting case it should be very small, means tending to 0. So electric field at the point due to the test charge will be given as E is equal to F divided by Q0. So it's equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q divided by R square, and R is the unit vector. Now suppose there are 2 or 3 or 4 charges and we have to calculate the electric field. Then that electric field is given as the vector sum of the electric fields due to all other charges. Means if there are if there are charge Q1, another charge Q2, and because of these charges the electric fields are E1 and E2 respectively, then the electric field at the particular point is given as the vector sum. So it is given as E is equal to vector E1 plus vector E2. So this is about the electric field due to the charge. Next we have to define the electric flux, and before going to discuss the electric flux we have to understand the electric field lines. Now the electric field in a region can be represented graphically by drawing the certain curves known as the electric field lines, or they are also called as the electric lines of force. And in general the electric line of force is nothing but a curve, and if you draw the tangent to the curve, then you will get the direction of the field at that point. So that means suppose this is the electric line of force, and suppose you have to find the direction of the electric field, then draw the tangent. So the tangent at this point will give you the direction of that electric field. And the arrow is necessary, because unless and until there is arrow you will not be able to find the direction, you will not be able to represent the direction. So the electric field lines provides the simple way of visualizing and describing the pattern of the electric field. Means we cannot visualize the electric field, but that electric field is represented by the electric field lines, and the direction of the electric field can be found out by drawing the tangent to that electric field line. So we'll understood how the electric field lines they can be represented. So electric field lines around some simple charge configurations, they are shown in this figure. Here we can see here the electric field lines due to positive charge. Sorry, they are represented by straight lines, and the straight lines, they are originating from the charge and they terminate to the infinity. Means this is the positive charge, and the electric field lines, they originate from the charge and they terminate towards the infinity. So all these are the electric field lines because of the positive charge. Similarly, if you consider the negative charge, the electric field lines, they will originate from infinity and they will terminate into the charge. So that is how one can represent the electric field lines due to the positive charge and due to the negative charge. Once again, I will repeat the positive charge. The electric field lines, they originate from charge and terminate into the infinity. And in negative charge, the electric field lines, they originate from the infinity and terminate into the charge. So that we can visualize. We can also visualize the electric field lines due to the two positive charge, because we know that the two positive charge, they will repel, and from this positive charge, the electric field lines, they will originate, and since these both are positive charge, they will be repelled somewhat like this. They will be repelled, and the electric field lines, because of the two positive charge, which are separated by finite distance, will be represented in this way. Similarly, you can represent the electric field lines due to the two opposite charges. One is the positive charge and one is the negative charge. So we know that in positive charge, the electric field lines, they originate from the charge, and for negative charge, the field lines terminate into the negative charge. Therefore, the electric field lines, they will be represented somewhat like this. Electric field lines will originate from positive charge and they will terminate into the negative charge. They will originate from the positive charge and terminate into the negative charge. In this way, we can represent the electric field lines due to the two opposite charges. So this is the representation of the electric field lines due to the isolated positive charge, isolated negative charge, two similar charges, positive charges separated by finite distance, and opposite charges separated by finite distance. So this is about the electric field lines, concept of the electric field lines. Now there are some general properties that should be remembered. Electric field lines, they start from positive charge and end to the negative charge, just I have explained. But in case of the isolated charge, single isolated charge, field lines may start or end at infinity. Means for positive charge, electric field lines will start from that charge and end into infinity. For negative charge, the electric field lines originate from the infinity and terminate into the negative charge. In the charge-free region, the electric field lines can be taken to be continuous curves without any breaks. If there are no charges, they can take the electric field lines as a straight lines without any break in the charge-free region. Now, this is the important thing, that the two field lines, they never cross each other. Means this is the positive charge, suppose, and this is a negative charge. The electric field line will terminate into this negative charge. It will originate from the positive charge. But another field line, it will not cross the electric field line. That is important thing. Two field lines never cross each other. Electric field lines do not form any closed loop. Electric field lines only originate from one charge and terminate into another charge. They do not form a closed loop like this. This closed loop will not be formed. That is the meaning. At the points where the electric field lines are closer and more crowded, the intensity of field is large, and at the points where the field lines are further apart, and less crowded, the intensity of field lines is less. Means where the density is high, the intensity will be high. Density of the electric field lines is large, then intensity of the electric field will be large. That is the mean. The lines of force are perpendicular to the surface of conductor, and there are no field lines in the material of the conductor. So electric field lines, they are not uh, observed inside the material of the conductor, and these electric lines of force are perpendicular to the surface of the conductor. So these are the basic things that should be remembered while understanding the concept of the electric field lines. Now let us come to the concept of the electric flux. So electric flux, the concept that is based on the electric field lines. It is defined as the number of electric field lines crossing unit area placed normal to the field at the point is called as the intensity of the electric field at that point. So this is the definition of the intensity of the electric field. Another definition, that is the number of electric lines that are crossing per unit area placed normal to the field at that point. It is called as the intensity of the electric field. Now let us consider these are the, suppose here is the charge and these are the electric field lines, and suppose here is the surface, somewhat like which is inclined at an angle theta. The surface is inclined at an angle theta. Then the total number of electric field lines passing through given area per unit time is defined as the electric flux. And if the plane is normal, if this surface is exactly normal, then flux is given as dot product of electric field and that surface area. However, if the surface is inclined, in that case, the electric flux or total flux, which is denoted by phi, is given as E into S into cos theta, where E is the magnitude of the electric field, S is the surface area through which electric flux is to be calculated, and theta is the angle made by the plane, and the axis parallel to the direction of the flow of the electric field. So this is how that is how one can represent the electric flux in terms of electric field and area through which the electric field lines are passing. If the field is non-uniform, then the flux, we have to calculate the flux through a small surface area, and that flux is given as d phi is equal to E dot ds, and the total flux is calculated over the entire surface by taking the integration, surface integration of E dot ds. Or if there is a closed surface, Gaussian surface, then the flux is given as phi is equal to integration over closed path E dot ds. So in this way, one can understood the concept of electric field, electric field lines, and electric flux passing through this surface area. So in this lecture, we'll stop here, and we'll discuss in next lecture the Gauss theorem, which is very important. Thank you for watching this lecture.